My name is Emily. I'm 40 years old. I've heard my name means to grow up cheerfully. However, when I was 15, I found out that my father's ex-girlfriend was named Emily. Ever since, I've quietly doubted the true origin of my name. Honestly, as a kid, there are certain delicate past details about my parents I'd rather not know. They didn't really dote on me when I was young. My brother, 3 years older, is named Ryan. He's smart and charming. Both parents always wanted a boy. Ryan, as their first child, was loved immensely. Our grandparents believed the first child must be a boy, an old-fashioned thought. My mother gave birth to a boy, despite immense pressure. With this background, my parents love Ryan more than anyone else. What about me? I always got hand-me-down clothes from Ryan. Even New Year's money had a clear disparity. Relatives always invited Ryan. Instead of being told to be patient because you're elder, I was told to support the boys. A puzzling way to instill laddie-like behavior. I believe I was raised with a lot of discrimination. It felt like I was always many steps behind. My redeeming feature has always been my carefree nature. My parents said, "You never think about anything." If I thought too much, I might have become dark and resentful towards Ryan. Ryan is Ryan, and I am me. Our family is a bit strange, but that's okay. I decided to accept our family and didn't care about my parents' attitude. No matter the difference in treatment, I am thankful to my parents for raising me. Ren, as we were kids, is still my sibling. Deep down, I couldn't truly hate them. However, that sentiment wavered after a particular incident when I was in my late 20s. My father retired. Both he and my mother, a homemaker, lived on their pension. Shortly after, my mother had a fall, leading to paralysis in her legs. She had to be cared for. With my father retired, I thought he'd be around to help, but I was mistaken. "Hey, Emily, I can't do anything on my own, so come back home." The first thing my father said after a long time was outrageous. "What? That's impossible. If I return, I can't commute to my job." Instead of saying, "You can't do anything. At least try to learn or practice." How dare you talk to your father like that? Just quit your job and come home. Don't you care about your mother? It's not as simple as quitting and returning. My father has always been domineering. He had my mother take care of everything for years. Now that my mother has fallen ill, he's become a helpless man. It seems he's plotting to make me return and take my mother's place. My brother works closer to home. Ask him instead. Why does he only try to use me now? Even though he never cared much for me before. I finally moved out and have been living freely. I never thought I'd give in to him. But for some reason, he started calling my workplace. Because of this, I couldn't concentrate on my job, and my colleagues and boss started to look at me oddly. Due to constant calls, I worked so hard to get this job, which I really wanted. I wanted to continue working there forever, but because of my father's relentless calls, I became stressed, affecting my work. I had no choice but to quit reluctantly. I decided to return home, only to find it in a terrible state. My father, now without a job, seemed to have nothing to do. He became obsessed with horse racing and would spend all his pension. On the day it was paid, he was drinking more than before, and every morning, I'd find empty beer cans and wine glasses all over the table. I had heard that there were some savings set aside for retirement, but the household finances were in shambles. No wonder when I suggested hiring a professional caregiver, my father hesitated. The utility bills were overdue and were paid only when the pension came in. It's a paycheck-to-paycheck situation. At this rate, even when the pension comes in, it'll be gone in no time. I had to use my savings to stabilize our lives initially and then renovate the house to make it wheelchair accessible for my mother. Later, I found a job near home, left my mother in a daytime care service, and dedicated about $2,000 a month to care and living expenses. My savings, which I started accumulating since my first job, seemed to be running out. Despite working, expenses kept mounting. Meanwhile, my father neither worked nor took responsibility, constantly depending on me financially and in my daily life. In a harsh sense, I felt completely leeched on between household chores in the morning, work in the daytime, and caregiving at night. I felt I was reaching my limit. Ideally, I wanted to place my mother in a nursing facility and leave my deadbeat dad to fend for himself. This would mean all the money currently being spent on my father could be saved or used for my own expenses. However, my father vehemently opposed sending my mother to a facility, and she herself seemed to rely only on me, saying, "Why should I go to a facility when you're taking care of me?" I consulted my brother, but as expected, he was indifferent. It was clear that I was the one who had to make sacrifices. And so, I found myself trapped in what felt like a prison called home. 3 years after starting this hellish cohabitation, my brother suddenly contacted me, saying, "My girlfriend is pregnant, so we got married." He then visited with his wife, whom I'd never even met before. Wow, I was looking forward to meeting Ryan's sister, because of the way you talked about her. But she doesn't look anything like you. She's not cute at all. As soon as she sees me, Ryan's wife, Paisley, starts laughing. Needless to say, I felt a strong aversion to her sheer rudeness. Despite it being her first visit, she walks around our home as if she owns the place. She even enters my room without permission, uses my makeup, and then says, "I like this. I'll take it." She even rummages through the cabinet where my mother's jewelry is kept and asks, "How much can you sell 18-karat gold for nowadays?" She seems a little dangerous. She is definitely not a good woman, even though they're married. I think it would be better if they split up. But both my father and mother are only concerned about wanting a grandchild, to the point where they seem clueless. And I can't help but envy them a little. The thought of being related to this woman scared me a bit. My bad. Premonition came true on that very day. But I'm so nervous about raising a child for the first time. I wish someone could help me. Paisley says it sweetly, twirling her hair. "Then you should live here," said my dad, who had been staring at Paisley's chest the whole time, suggesting this with an lecherous look. "Really? Are you sure?" Of course, as my parents, brother, and wife are getting excited about living together, I couldn't help but ask, "What will we do about the lack of rooms?" "You can move out." "What?" My father's words astounded me. "That's a good idea. You should hurry up and leave. Can you move out soon?" It might sound self-praising, but I believe I've been very dutiful to my parents, yet they're so quick to turn their backs on me. Hold on, I can't just be thrown out like this. I've been paying for Mom's caregiving, and I don't even have the money to move. What about Mom's care? "I'll give you the money for caregiving or whatever. Thanks to working at a major company, not some small local business like you, I'm not struggling for money." "All right, Emily, go to your room and pack up your things. Move out by today." He patted me on the back as if to usher me toward my room. He looked pleased, as if he had found a quality new host to leech off. "Move out by today," he says, "but it's snowing outside. I don't have any money. Where am I supposed to live from now on? Why? This doesn't make sense, does it?" Without thinking, I voiced my true feelings. "This isn't a joke. You're so naive, Emily. Listen, I won't say it twice. We're moving in because I'm having a child. The Aiden should leave." Taken aback, I instinctively looked at my parents, even at my mother, whom I had desperately cared for all these years. I wanted to be with my grandson. "Just accept it," she said, smiling as if guiding me to acceptance. Saying so, he hastily packed up my room's belongings into a bag. "At least wait a few days, until I find a place to live." But they forcibly dragged me by the arm and threw me out of the house. No matter how many times I rang the doorbell, they ignored me. Tossed around by my parents and finally by my brother, my life isn't their toy. Even when I was treated coldly as a child, I always smiled. It was my self-defense. But both my parents and brother misunderstood, thinking I could handle anything. "This isn't a joke. Don't mess with me. Crying, I left my family home and wandered the streets aimlessly. Finally, I found a cat and sought refuge in an internet cafe. When I contacted a friend,